Right, how about this? Oh, I can see it's lagged. Yay! Okay, Anthony, thank you. I think I figured out why that was happening. Hi, Virginia. All right, it looks like even though I could see it on my end because I hadn't clicked live yet, um, it wasn't actually pushing everything through. So that must be it. This is my first time going through YouTube to do one of these lives. Usually I did it just straight streaming right to the Facebook group. Um, but it looks like Facebook removed that ability. So I'm using StreamYard so that I can switch between different things and Facebook locked that down somehow. So bear with me. I will try to make this as seamless as I can. But I think that's what was going on. All right. I apologize, by the way, for not giving you guys a ton of heads up on when I was going to do this. I used to do these very regularly, and then, sorry, I'm moving stuff around as I talk. I used to do these very, very regularly before, and then moved recently and just had a whole bunch of stuff happening. And so I wasn't able to do it as consistently, and it's been a little while, so I'm a little rusty, but I hope to get to a point where I'm doing these more often again and hopefully able to help everybody out that way. So bear with me. I'm going to just set up a few things real quick while we wait. What I'll probably do is it's 2:02. I know I didn't give everybody a whole lot of heads up. So I have questions from Facebook. I'm going to finish setting up a few things just so it's easier for me to click through. And then I'll get started just going through these. And if you ever miss one of these, I'm sure most of the people who posted questions probably can't make it right this minute. So they'll be able to watch the live afterwards. And anything I don't get to, I'll do in a future live. And if you have questions as I go, just drop them in the comments and I'll make sure to get to them. So let me get just a couple things up. Um, get rid of that. And one more. Alrighty. Okay, so what time is it now? 2:02. I'll give folks just like another minute or two, and then we'll get started. And if you didn't have a chance to post questions in the post I put in the group, feel free to drop it here in the comments, and I'll try to get to that too. Oh, you're very welcome, Anthony. I'm happy to do it, and yeah, I'll be doing more of these for sure. Um, I think at one point I was doing them like consistently every week. Hopefully, I'll be able to get back to that too if there's enough interest. There were a couple of weeks where I posted it and I was like, "Hey, does anyone have questions? Does anyone have a live or like have topics they want me to cover?" And some weeks there just weren't a lot of things, so I just posted YouTube videos on those instead. But I'm always happy to jump on here and answer questions if there's a desire. Oh, good. Okay. I saw your message, but I've been like, other than right now to set this up, I've been like all over the place this morning. So I apologize for not responding, but I did see it and I was like, oh, I need to respond to Anthony later. So um I hope you're able to get everything that you need. That's good. Sorry it was a hassle. It sounds like it was a bit of a hassle, but hopefully all that gets resolved. I had that happen recently where was it UPS? It might have been UPS just delivered something to a totally unrelated like, I don't even know how they translated, like, address A to address B and then delivered something totally wrong place. It can be crazy sometimes. All right, so it's 2:04. I appreciate you guys being on. I see there are 4 people on. I appreciate you guys being on, especially with such short notice. So I do apologize for that. I promise to be better going forward. If you didn't know, I have been moving and was house searching, negotiating, packing, moving. So if you've been on my other lives before, you can probably tell that behind me looks totally different than it used to. I'm still figuring out my whole new setup and all that. But that'll be in place and good soon. Before I start going through the questions, well, and now that I'm situated, hopefully I'll be more active in the group again and testing more materials and all that good stuff. So, before I get through that, can everybody hear me okay? I know sometimes my mic is not close enough. So, is that working okay? And I know there's a lag, so I'll just wait a second. Good. Okay, thank you. And I just noticed too, my camera seems to like be zooming in and out. I don't know why. I'll learn how to lock that down so it doesn't keep doing that. I'm sorry. All right. So what I did was I grabbed all the questions that people had posted in response to my post in the Facebook group, and I'm just going to run through them. If you have questions as I go, just jump in and ask, post them in the comments. Like if it's a clarifying question or something related to what I'm talking to, go ahead. I will try to catch those right away and respond to them as I go. If you didn't get a chance to post questions in the group, just drop them in the comments. And if we have some time, then I will get to that as well. So I'm going to try to go in order. The first question I had was, how do you import projects from Cricut Design Space or Etsy or other images into the Glowforge site? So I think that may be a two-part question because of the mention of Cricut Design Space. So with Design Space, if you're making something in Design Space and then you want to import it and use it in the Glowforge, I have heard, I have not tinkered with this, but I have heard that there's a way to download an SVG now from Design Space. I'll admit I don't do a lot of designing in Design Space, so I haven't tinkered with that myself. But I do have a YouTube video on how to grab something from Design Space, something you might have made, and turn that into an SVG. So I apologize. This morning was a little crazy. I didn't get a chance to prep these ahead of time. So what I'm going to do is after this live, I'm going to drop a whole bunch of YouTube videos because I have YouTube videos to address a bunch of the questions that were listed. I will drop that link so you don't have to sit here and wait for me to like look it up. But I do have a video on how to essentially grab the picture or grab the design that you've created, turn it into an SVG, and then import it into Design Space. The other aspect of that question, I think, is probably how to, because it mentions Etsy or other things, how to import an SVG that you might have into the Glowforge app. And so I'm going to pull up the Glowforge app real quick and show you all how to do that. Some of you may already know this if you've been playing with the Glowforge app already, but I'm going to try to get to everybody's questions. So bear with me if this is something you already know how to do. All right, so I'm going to switch over to show you my Glowforge screen. Okay, so when you go into the Glowforge app, actually, let me just start at the main page just in case we've got some brand new folks. So whenever you're sending any sort of design, anything into to your Glowforge machine, the same way you would have to use Design Space to communicate with your Cricut machine to get it to do stuff. Anytime you're trying to send a design and communicate with your Glowforge machine, you're going to have to use the Glowforge app. Unlike Design Space, the Glowforge app is totally 100% web-based. So to get to that, you're always going to go to app.glowforge.com, and it's going to bring you to a page that looks something like this. Not exactly this, because these popular, this month things are going to change. My designs are going to change, but the general structure of it's going to be the same. Then you're going to go to create anything. Let's say you're going to upload a design, because that was the question. Let's say you're going to upload a design. You're going to go over here. Sorry, my camera's blocking the screen a little bit. And you're going to click right here. And then, sorry, like I said, I can't see, create a blank design. I always do create a blank design. You can do upload file, but Since I'm usually just ready to work with whatever I'm uploading, I go to create blank design. And then it's going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. Now I have mine set to my Pro HD. I need to uninstall that app. That is incredibly annoying. All right, so let me switch over to, let's say, my Glowforge Aura, and your screen will look something like this if you have the Glowforge Aura. If you do end up at one point with multiple machines, like you just saw me do, you can easily switch between the different machines. But if you have an Aura or a Spark, it's going to look something like this. Now, the question was, how do you upload a file that you might get from some other source, let's say like Etsy? So you'll see this plus sign up here. You're going to click on that plus sign, and then you're going to go over to upload. And then from there, you can literally just navigate until you see your file and then select that file and upload it. Um, when you're uploading files, if you're going to be cutting the file, you want to make sure that you're working with like an SVG or something like that, some sort of vector file. If you're going to be engraving, it can be almost anything. So, like JPEGs, PNGs are great for engraving as well. So, you really just need to make sure, like, I will use an SVG if I'm going to be cutting. You want to make sure it's some sort of vector file to cut with, and the most common is going to be an SVG. So the one other thing I'll say on this before I kind of switch topics is going to be if if you are um, going to make any sort of file, for cutting, designing, whatever it is, if you're making the file, make sure that you're creating the right file. And then if you're finding files from other places, like let's say Etsy, make sure that you're getting an SVG from whoever's selling you that file. Sorry, I must have bumped my camera. Um, so often when you buy something off of Etsy, it's going to be like some sort of compressed file because you're going to get like usually like a zip file or something like that that's going to have your SVG file, usually like a README file. Sometimes they'll include PNGs. Like when you get mine, they'll often have like a mix of things in there. So you want to make sure that when you get that file, you're not trying to upload the zip file into your Glowforge app because it will not read that the same way like Cricut Design Space won't read a zip file. You want to extract the files from that zip file and then only upload the SVG. All right, let's see. We have one question. One of my proof grade eco shirt materials doesn't give me the option to score. Is that normal? Um, that's interesting. Which one? Yeah, let's message me about that afterwards because I'll help you troubleshoot that. I'm not sure why that would be off the top of my head. I wonder if it's something to do with the file, but um, Anthony, let's talk about your question maybe afterwards, and then if I can figure out what the deal is, I'll post it and share with everybody. Um, but that might be something that we probably want to do after the lives, just so I can get through these questions first, and that might require some troubleshooting. So if you could, I don't know if I ever shared my email with you. If you could email me whatever the design is you're trying to use, I can help you troubleshoot that. Okay, so I think I probably answered that question about how to upload those files, but like I said, I will drop the link to how specifically to do it from Cricut Design Space after this live because I do have a video on how to basically grab something from Cricut Design Space, turn it into an SVG so you can import it. All right. So another question that I got was, how do you figure out the numbers for the different types of wood you can buy on Amazon? So I think what this person's asking is basically, how do I figure out the settings for those? Um, and that is a combination of a lot of trial and error and a lot of experience at this point. I actually took some pictures the other day that I'm going to share of like the mass of like materials that I have tested over the last like year-ish for the Aura. It's been a lot of materials. So I've gotten to the point where I can kind of research material and go, oh, it's going to be similar to this one. So let me try these settings first and then I can tweak from there. But what I will say to make all of your lives a lot easier and give you the benefit of all the testing that I've done is I have a ton of material settings that I share for free in the group as well as on a page. So if you're in my Facebook group, um, there are guides in the Facebook group, and you'll have probably seen like a welcome video that walks you through how to find those guides. In there, I post a lot of the settings and tutorials and projects and stuff that'll be relevant to you. I also do them as like individual posts. So, a couple times a week, hopefully I'll start that up consistently again. You'll see a post with me from me, like with settings and a picture of what I'm testing, what I'm doing, and a link to the product. So you can get the exact product that I've tested, the exact material settings, I mean, that work for it, and any like additional comments or tips or stuff that I have for using that material. That can be, as that list has grown, that can be a little tedious to go through and find those settings in the Facebook group. So I also have a page where I share all of that. So let me share that page real quick. And actually, do, let me just share this one real fast in here. Glowforge Aura settings. I think that is the right link. I'm just dropping it here in the comments. But I'm going to share the page real quick so you guys can see. Here we go. Okay. So what you're seeing on your screen now is a page on my website. So when you click that link that I dropped in the comments just now, you'll see a page that looks like this. And if you scroll down, you'll see this block here for a password, and you'll also see this form. So if it's your first time accessing this, you're going to fill out this form with just your name and your email address, and then you'll get a link with the password that you need to put in here. Now, let's see if I do the password real fast. It will open the page, and then this is what you're going to see. So there's lots of good information on here. I try to update this every like 3 or 4 materials that I identify, that I test. After I post them in the Facebook group, I will post them here. I'm sorry, I don't know why my screen is just going nuts with these right now. Um, so I'll usually share them in the Facebook group first, and then after I have like 3 or 4 new materials, I'll post them here. And you'll see basically here are my tips. 'Cause these are kind of the rules for using this. My tips for how to tweak and adjust the settings, some coupons that'll be really helpful. So definitely use these coupons because you'll save usually 10% on a lot of things. Here's how to modify the settings, because what I have found is these are very, very high tech machines. And sometimes, like my machine may be very, very slightly different than yours, or like one spot of the machine might function very slightly different than another. But because that teeny tiny little difference can sometimes make the difference between cutting through like perfectly cleanly or needing to be pushed through a little bit, it's good to know how to test and adjust the settings for your machine. Think of it as almost like calibrating. um, so here are some tips for how to do that. And these tips are also helpful for you if you are trying to find new settings yourself. If you can't find the settings you need in my list, these tips can help you figure out how to kind of tweak and adjust that yourself. And then we get into the actual settings. And I have a ton of settings in here. It's getting kind of ridiculous, to be honest. But I have so many more things that I want to test for you guys. So this list is just going to keep on growing. So you'll see, and they're sorted usually by types, like all the acrylic will be first. You'll see acrylic, you'll see the color, the description of it, the store it's from. These are links. So you can go directly and buy them. And then these are your settings. And like I said, there'll be sometimes comments here to help you like know how to better use it or what to expect if like sometimes they're just a little unique. And so I have a ton and ton of settings in here for you. So when it comes to finding materials that are non-proof grade materials and knowing how to use them and what the settings are for them, I highly recommend starting with this sheet here. And there's just so much you can grab. So this will help you. The other thing this will help you with is determining which colors and which type of materials might work. I get this question a lot where folks are brand new to the aura and they try to work with a certain color and they're surprised and they're unsure why it's not working. Come to this sheet here first and see like, have I been able to cut pink well? Have I been able to cut white well? If you don't see a specific color on here, there's probably a good chance, a good reason for it. And the other thing I will say too is from brand to brand, it can be different. So I have cut some colors before, no problem from one brand, and then I go to another brand and I can't cut it well. And when I say well, I mean like I don't want it to take 10 passes to cut through. I don't want it to be like bubbled up on the edges or burnt. So if it doesn't cut through at some like reasonable amount, I won't include it on this list. So you can use this as a good sense for what you can and can't work with the aura or the spark. And these settings are the same for the aura and the spark. The other thing I will say is you'll see on here in the beginning, I really tried to push the like envelope on what I could cut and use with the aura. So you will see some things on here that say like it took 6 passes to cut. That's usually where I'll cut it off. If it takes anything more than 6, I won't include it on this list. But just know if it's going to take 5 or 6 passes, it's hard to cut. So you may not want to use that material for something that's super intricate um, because it may not perform as well as you'd like because it is really difficult to cut. It can cut, but not as easily as something that takes 3 passes. Okay, so I think I've probably answered on that, but let me check the comments real quick. I did see quite a few comments come through. All right. Oh, it was just 2 comments. All right. Let's see. What is good masking tape for non-proof grade material? Hi. Okay, so I see Tech TV. I don't know what your name is. I'm sorry. Um, so I do have a masking material that I do recommend linked in the Facebook group. So since I'm doing this on YouTube Live, it's possible that you're not in my Facebook group. So let me go back to my group real quick. And actually, what I'll do is I will share my group and show you where to find some quick stuff. Let me do this just real fast. Um, let's see, bear with me just 1 second. And then I'll go back to the questions that I had received. Uh-oh. Sorry. Somehow I started playing my YouTube video. Okay. All right. So what you're seeing now, and this might look a little different for you. I don't know how to get that screen to go away. That tab. This is my Facebook group. So you may or may not be in here. Um, So, to figure out masking, so you would want to go over here to the guides. Well, you can search masking as well, or you can go over here to the guides. And this is what I was referencing earlier that I've got a ton of information in here that you might find really useful, especially as you're getting started. So, some projects and tutorials, material settings. So, these are all the materials that you saw on that web page that I had up previously are over here as well. And then some recommended tools and materials. So if we scroll this down, you should see masking right here. And I'll include a link to the masking that I personally use and recommend, as well as some more information about what masking is, when to use it, and that sort of thing. So in the guides, this can be very helpful. Let me see if I'm able to copy this. I don't know if it'll let me. My computer is now lagging because I'm streaming. I hope you're all able to hear me okay still. Um, I hate when this happens. So Let me do this just so I don't hold everybody up. Um, Tech TV, comment and let me know if you need me to drop a link to that post. If you do, I'll drop it in the comments afterwards. Um, Otherwise, now you know where to find it and lots of other good information. And I plan on putting that on a web page too at some point, like all the tips and stuff just kind of all in one place. It's been on my list for a little while, but I just have not gotten to it. So I apologize for that. All right. So you're very welcome, Tech TV. All right. So let me go back to the questions that I had. Let's see. So the next question I have on here is how to take advantage of the upgrade to faster cut settings. And it says, I don't know the benefits, um, how it benefits anyone with the aura. Okay. So the increase in settings for the Glowforge Aura and the Spark and all that, like the upgrade they did 2 things. They upgraded the top speed, and they upgraded the algorithm. So the upgrade to the algorithm, there's nothing you need to do in order to take advantage of that. Basically, what they did is they further optimized how the laser moves around the machine. You may notice when it's doing a project, and this freaked me out in the beginning until I really understood it. But you may notice that it like starts in one area of the project and then it like jumps to another area and it works over there and it jumps to another. And it looks really haphazard and it's like kind of hard sometimes to figure out why it would do that. And there are people who have like the Pro and the Plus who hack that a little bit by breaking up their projects into pieces so that it forces it to work on one area first and then another area, and it forces it to do things a certain way. That's like top level, like whatever. But um, the Glowforge algorithm automatically does that a certain way in order to avoid melting or burning your project. So if it were to work in a specific area for too long, it's heating that material because of the laser and it risks potentially burning your project or, other things. So it'll kind of give that spot a break and move to another spot. Um, so that upgrade, that optimizing how it's moving around your project and the machine and all that is just automatic. They just did that and there's nothing that you need to do to take advantage of that. To take advantage of the top speed, you would need to really adjust all of your settings, not just one. And I think that's where a lot of people are getting hung up. Um, there's like an inverse relationship between some of the settings. And I know there's a picture out there. I meant to grab it before this live, and it's just been a crazy morning. I didn't have a chance to do that, so I apologize. I will post it. I plan on actually making my own because I want to depict it slightly differently. But basically, if you think about it, there's the power of your laser is one metric, one of the variables. The speed that your laser is working at is one of the others, and then your number of passes. So if you think about it, if your laser is really, really strong, but it's moving really, really fast, it's not actually going to put as much, heat and cutting power and engraving power into the material as if it was moving slower. So so the power and the speed kind of have an inverse relationship. The higher the power um, is similar. So when you increase your power, it's similar to lowering your speed because if it's a lower power, but it's going really, really slowly, it's also putting a lot of heat and cutting power or engraving power to that material. So, where a lot of people are getting hung up with the speed upgrades is that they're trying to increase their speed without also increasing their power. Because when you're increasing your speed, you're actually basically making it like less powerful because it's spending less time putting that laser on the material. So, you also need to increase the power of that laser because you've now sped it up. So it does take a lot of trial and error to figure out what that like perfect sweet spot is once you start tweaking those settings. The other thing I'll say is if you increase your speed, you might end up having to increase your number of passes as well to accommodate for that if your power is already high. So let's say you were working at 100 speed, 10 power, and 2 passes there's no 11 power. You can't increase your power anything past the 10 already. So if you want to increase your speed, you can't increase your power. You're going to have to increase your passes in order to like even it all out. And that's probably not going to save you time in the end. So you really have to find that right balance between when you can actually increase your speed and get a benefit from it because you're also able to increase your power. I do need to find some time to make a graphic to show that a little bit better and maybe make a video on it because I know it's confusing. I'm sorry if I confused you even more. Hopefully that helped somewhat. Um, but but yeah, that's kind of the challenge. So if you're using a material that you're already on like 5 power or something, and you wanna increase the speed, you can move it up to 6 power or 7 power, 8. You've got that, like, space there to do that. But if you're already at a high power, increasing the speed's not really gonna help you all that much because you're not able to increase your power enough to compensate for that. Alright, let's see, we've got a question. Why would they have an option on the Aura, for proof grade material if they didn't want you using? I've been told that they can't help me because the material wasn't proof graded. Oh, are you saying that they won't help you troubleshoot the non-proof grade material? Anthony, I'm not sure I understand your question. If you don't mind rewording it, I will do my best to try to address it. Um, but I'm honestly not 100% sure I know what your question is. In the meantime, I'm gonna keep going, but hopefully that helps at least answer the question about the upgraded speed a little bit. Just remember, anytime that you're upgrading your speed, that you're increasing the speed on a setting, you're going to need to increase the power as well to compensate for that. Just because if when you increase your speed, you're effectively making that laser less powerful because it's spending less time on the material cutting through it. So you're going to have to make that laser more powerful by increasing your power. All right. Somebody said, I'm not sure what settings. I've tested many different ones and it um, just bubbles and doesn't cut through. Okay. So this other question was again about kind of how to come up with their own settings. And the trouble that they're having is that when they use their settings, it's bubbling, but it's not cutting through. So the first thing I'd say is I strongly recommend looking at that list that I showed previously on my website. Using the materials on that list will go a long way towards making this a whole lot easier for you because I give you the settings and I give you instructions on how to test it and just tweak it ever so slightly to make it work for your machine if you need to. Most people don't need to tweak them, but I put that out there as a caveat just in case. Um, so that would be my first recommendation is to work off of the materials that I share. And if there's materials you want me to test and figure out settings for, let me know and give me a little bit of time to get the materials and figure it out. Um, but or send me the materials. I'll happily try it out for you. But that would be my suggestion just to make your lives easier. I have the settings already for you, so you can do that. Um, if you want to come up with your own settings, that is amazing. I also have instructions on there for how to kind of like pick something and start tweaking from there. If you're finding that it is bubbling, but it's not cutting through, typically that is because your power is way too high or your speed is way too low. So typically what you'll have to do if it's bubbling and it's not cutting through, see which one of those is super high. So let's say your speed is you know, super low, like 5 or 10, and your power is 9, that's probably gonna cause it to bubble. It's probably gonna cause it to, like, overheat the material. Um, so what I would do is I would lower your power a little bit or increase your speed. Typically, adjust one of those at a time, don't adjust both. Adjust the power or speed at any given time and add passes. That way your material has a chance to like calm down before it gets hit again with the laser to minimize that bubbling. Um, the other question I would have for you would be the color of the acrylic. There are some materials that no matter what you do are simply not going to cut with a diode laser like the Aura or the Spark. Just because of the way that the diode laser works, it does not work on clear, does not work on like 99.99% of white acrylic and probably like 98% of blue acrylic. There are very, very few blues that will cut. I do have a few, I believe, in my sheet. And I hear that the Hobby Lobby white will cut. I have not had a chance to try it myself. Um, but by and large, those just will not work. So if you're using like a white acrylic, for example, and it's bubbling because you're just throwing everything at it and it's not working, it's because it's white acrylic. It just isn't going to cut. Like no amount of laser power on it, no fine tuning is going to get that to cut just right, unless it's that like 0.01% of the materials out there that will in those colors. And those are very rare. So always worth trying. And it's always fun to try, but just know if it's like white, blue, or clear, it's probably not going to cut. And then part two, this person's question was actually about glitter acrylic. Um, Glitter acrylic is often clear acrylic with glitter inside. And so those will not usually cut, but I do have some glitter acrylic linked in the Facebook group and on that page that will cut. And the reason why that glitter acrylic is unique and will work with the Aura and the Spark, it is actually opaque acrylic with a thin coat of glitter on top. So like 99.99%, of it is opaque with just a little bit of glitter on top. So from the top down, it looks like glitter acrylic and it's beautiful, but it's not clear filled with glitter. So that one will work. The only downside to that one is that one comes in a pack of a bunch of different colors, and there's like 3 or 4 colors in that pack that will not cut with the Aura, which is really unfortunate. But I think because it's like so unique and it's the only one that I have found so far that works, it's totally worth it if you want glitter. Um, just use that colors that won't cut as like a sign backdrop or something and glue stuff on it instead of cutting, and it's fine. All right, let me check the time real quick. So I was going to try to do about an hour. My voice is already getting messed up. So, um, I may not do a full hour. We'll see if I can get through all the questions. If not, I'm just going to plan another one of these really, really soon and we'll do this again. Um, Anthony, let me check your question. I've had issues with non-proof grade, and when I called, they said they couldn't help troubleshoot. Yes. Okay. So, Anthony, yes. So, I thought this might be where you're going with the questions. So, um, Glowforge unfortunately cannot help you troubleshoot non-proof grade material because they don't have it. So, they can't ensure or promise any sort of settings or performance for non-proof grade material. There's a lot of things that can go into the settings in the material and what it takes and all that. Ooh, my throat really is getting dry, so this might be the last thing, and then I'll plan another one. I apologize for not getting to all the questions. Um, there's a lot that goes into what makes certain settings work for some material for another, and that's not just acrylic, that's with plywood too, like the glues and the type of wood that they're, like, pushing together and how thick that is and how dense it is, and all of that really can play a part. Um, in the in how those materials cut and what it takes to cut them. So that's why when you call up, they really can't help you. I can try to give you some advice, like as a individual. Um, I can try to give you some advice. I'm basically just here to try to help you guys out and spread whatever I've learned to you guys. So um, I can try to help you troubleshoot based on what I've been able to figure out. But as a business, I don't think that they feel like they can do that because they can't guarantee anything. The same way I can't guarantee the specific settings are 100% going to work every single time. They can't either. And I think their approach to it is basically, you can put custom manual settings in here and you can try that, but they can't virtually say, "Hey, do this or do that," or whatever it is to make that material cut because they don't have it in hand and they can't test it themselves to know that it's gonna cut like that. They try to test their proof grade materials, and I meant to pull this out of the live video that I did with their CEO. I got to interview them recently and I asked them a whole bunch of questions about proof grade materials. And they go through even more testing for proof grade materials than I realized for like however long I've been working, with proof grade material. I didn't realize just how in-depth their test is for proof grade material. And so they really try to make sure that every sheet of proof grade is going to function the same. Not all companies go to the same lengths that they go to. And so when you end up with like two sheets of, maple plywood from another company, those two sheets might function slightly differently just because of the way the knots are or whatever it is in the material. They might not function exactly the same way. They try with proof grade to make sure that it does, which is why sometimes when the proof grade doesn't work, if you call them up, they'll often replace it. Maybe always replace it. I'm not sure because they try to stand by that and how the proof grade material operates. They can't offer that for non-proof grade material, which is why if you call them up and you ask them for help, they unfortunately really won't be able to help you through that. Um, but that's what I'm here for. So if you've got a material, you're trying to figure it out and can't, post it in the group, I and others will try to help, guide you through how to tweak your settings to do it. But yeah, with non-proof grade material, it can be a little bit more tricky. And even from one batch to another, they can function a little bit differently. All right. So unfortunately, I am really losing my voice. I don't know why. It's really dry and I should have had a glass of water with me. Um, but I didn't, so I apologize for that. You're welcome, Anthony. I do have a few more questions in here that I did not get a chance to get to, so I apologize for that. I will schedule another one of these for next week. Um, and in fact, in the next few minutes, I will post about that and try to like do a poll and figure out what time works best for everybody so I can get it on your schedules sooner than later. Um, and we'll go from there. I'll finish the remainder of the questions that time and any new questions that come up between now and then. So I appreciate you guys joining me today. Thank you for the questions. I hope this was helpful and I will do more of these. I will be back. And if you have any feedback or any suggestions, feel free to shoot me a DM. Um, I would find that very helpful if you have suggestions. And I will talk to you all guys all soon in the Facebook group and have a great day. Bye, everyone.